Ranked choice voting will cost Idahoans more than merely their time and patience in managing its complexities, about $40 million more to be specific. This information comes from a letter issued by the Office of the Secretary of State, Phil McGrane. Therein, he describes the practical challenges of implementing RCV in a state that prioritizes integrity and local control in our elections. On this week's episode of Fiscal Fridays, we will dive into how this new RCV initiative voters will decide upon in November bears a larger cost than projected. To understand the implications of the RCV initiative, you must first understand how Idaho conducts elections currently. Many voters aren't aware that the GEM state prioritizes local control over elections, meaning that elections are administered at the county level, not the state level. This means that counties can make decisions based on their needs within the confines of Idaho law. This means that some counties count ballots at the precinct level while others count ballots at centralized locations. Some counties tabulate ballots with a machine while others still count them by hand. Among those who use machines, there is some wiggle room in which voting systems they can use as long as they comply with Idaho law and their certification standards. Idaho also has taken steps to prioritize election integrity. For example, the Secretary of State's office conducts audits for the May and November elections. Also, votes are cast on paper ballots. The Idaho legislature also recently updated the law to clarify that voting machines must not be connected to the internet, an industry best practice according to the SOS office. Forcing Idaho into a system where its values are incompatible will come with large costs to taxpayers. Proponents of RCV are trying to force a system into our state that is currently being used by more centralized election models. Alaska is one state that uses the type of voting system being proposed by the Ranked Choice Voting Initiative, but their system is very different than in Idaho. For example, Alaskans don't have county governments, so they administer elections across 5 district offices and are more centralized in their administration of elections overall. Since we are so different, Idaho would face many substantial hurdles to implement RCV. First, our voting systems would have to be completely overhauled. The Secretary's letter notes that there are only 2 voting systems that work with RCV and meet Idaho's election standards: Clear Ballot Group and Dominion voting systems. The latter of which is a group that received significant criticism following the 2020 election. Looking strictly at the financial concerns for making the switch, a change would require counties to purchase new machines and new software. The Secretary of State notes that this could cost up to $40 million to accomplish. But voting systems aren't the only cost that the state would incur. Voter education is also a major issue since the switch to RCV is such a disruptive change to the process. In Alaska, their elections office spent nearly $3.5 million to educate approximately 594,000 voters. Idaho has just over 1 million voters. Assuming the same cost per voter, a statewide comprehensive voter education effort would cost nearly $5 million. The costs of RCV weren't previously anticipated, with more surprises to come. The original fiscal note that circulated with the initiative estimated the cost of implementation to be $1.6 million. This means the revised estimates are more than 25 times greater than expected. This is because the estimate could not contemplate the costs of new equipment, revising tabulation patterns, and updating software. Without state action, the cost of this proposal, if implemented, would be borne by the counties. Naturally, this means that costs would have to be recouped through local taxes. There are also costs that can't be quantified. One example is that races that cross county lines will require coordination between the 2 jurisdictions involved. This would draw out the ballot counting process substantially. It is unclear how this would increase costs. In all, the convoluted process ranked choice voting would install could cost Idahoans their time, treasure, and voice. Hidden under these layers of complexity are harmful side effects that are slowly coming out of the woodwork. So what else is hidden beneath the facade of open primaries? Perhaps it's best not to find out. Thank you for taking the time to watch this week's episode of Fiscal Fridays. To continue to support the Idaho Freedom Foundation's message of liberty, please be sure to like and subscribe. Also, to view our other great content from the Idaho Freedom Foundation, including our joint press release on ranked choice voting, please visit idahofreedom.org.